Okay. Happy New Year, everybody, and welcome to the January meeting of the tree board, January 17th, 2025. And we've got a lot of exciting stuff to talk about today. This is sort of our beginning of the year, get things kicked off. And so there is some housekeeping type stuff, beginning of the year housekeeping. So let's see. Let's welcome Tom Graham, our new Council Representative, and then we have Bob Toma too, who is here today.
That's the only one we're missing.
Yes. And with,
Did you say he wasn't coming?
oh, do you have his number? I don't know if you've run over. So in the meantime, Rachel, would you like to call roll?
Yeah. Carol Leonard. Here. Kathleen Liam.
Here.
Dan Mulder.
Here.
Henry.
Here.
And Buckland was gone. Tom Graham.
Here.
Don't have it.
Great. Okay, let's see. Have we had a chance to look at the minutes from December? Any corrections? Anybody like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
A motion on the table. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Motion passes. The minutes from December are approved.
Do we have to vote? The two. Good. I made a motion and a second. Do you have to?
Oh, all those in favor, sorry, you're right. Please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Okay, motion passes. Thank you. Thank you for pointing that out. That would be the sign of a really good chairperson. Okay. Victor's not here, so I don't believe we have any board communications.
Not that I'm aware of.
Yep. So, let's see, we have somebody here today, which is great. That's Pam Archinsky, for anybody who doesn't know Pam. And did you come to talk to us?
Great, yeah, I'm item D, public comment. So I am.
And is it about something that's on our agenda?
It is not.
Okay,
Sorry, just so I have my notes right. Can you just give me your full name and your address?
Pam to M, Tarchinsky, Tarchinsky.
Okay.
465 State Street.
465 State Street.
Uh-huh.
Thank you.
So, as y'all know, last night was very interesting and harmonious, planning commission meeting for the public. And a couple of things popped up in that conversation that really caught my attention. And in the middle of the night, I realized that this is where I ought to bring them up. So that's why I'm here. Should I sit?
Please sit.
So I didn't do a lot of research on this, so these are just ideas that are orbiting in my head. So one of the things that came up repeatedly, and there seems to be a real interest on the planning commission, is to establish a historical preservation committee or commission. So in that category, definitely is trees. Because for one, we're Tree City, and for two, looking it up in the middle of the night, it's not unusual at all for cities to have a tree protection component in historic preservation. And one of the ways they do it is they designate heritage trees. So for example, would it be the tree board's assignment to, or could they take it upon themselves to write the ordinance or pitch into the planning commission work, offering expertise along the lines of, this is what a heritage, from what I read last night, designate heritage tree designation includes the size and the age of the trees. So big trees, the cultural value of a tree. I love that tree. That's shaded my house forever. It's been a joy to sit under when I go for a walk in Harbor Springs.
We have cricket
And-
trees. We're part of the Ottawa culture. Marking trails, yeah.
And also environmental value. So they clean our air. So if such trees are identified and given a designated heritage tree, title, then they could have protected status. So if somebody wanted to mess with them in some chainsaw kind of way, they would need a special permit. And they would have to, it's almost kind of our, kind of education, because people do seem to kind of just willy-nilly, that tree's my way, I'm taking it down. So just slow people down, so they know what we have to develop sort of bigger appreciation. And if they had to buy a permit to do that kind of work, such a permit could include quite a hefty fee. And that fee, of course, might go toward buying other trees, plus a permit could include, you take a tree down with city permission, you have to replace the tree with an approved tree.
So is
Not
this,
just
Pam, are we
listed.
talking about these trees on private property or on city property?
Myself, I would say, an inventory of important trees in town and whether they belong to public land or private land. A tree's a tree. If it's a great tree, if it's an important tree, then I think it should be considered.
So we've actually talked about this. Have we, we've had. Yes, we have had, yes,
Master
project matrix, yeah. So we have talked about it. We just haven't gotten to it yet. We've had other pressing things. So I think it is a really valid thing. We have talked about regulating tree removal on private property. And so far we have said it's private property and the city doesn't want to get involved. That's not to say that the discussion couldn't come up again. That discussion would not be part of something I think that tree board would undertake. We could identify the trees and all that, but I think that would be a council decision on whether we want to get involved in regulating trees on private property. I was involved in the city of Novi. That was my job during college with their tree protection ordinance. And it just ended up a disaster where they were sued for, I think, $12 million or something like that because of that, trying to regulate trees and, don't cut down trees on private property.
That almost in every conversation, people try to place an ordinance or even just educate that we really like that, we don't want it to be destroyed. That always comes back, the experience comes back that someone arrives with a high-powered lawyer and throws a lot of terrorism, legal terrorism at people.
Yeah.
I don't know how that gets dealt with, but nonetheless. I'm pretty sure that once the historic commission conversation expands and grows, that tree protection will be part of the conversation.
Mhm.
And so if there is a place for the tree board to pitch in, I hope y'all do.
I could see a couple ways in which we could. First of all, identifying trees.
Yes.
Then we can still identify the trees on private property.
Right,
And,
oh, right,
and make note of anything significant or historical about them.
right,
And it could give them the information. They might think twice if they want to move a tree or take it down. They might think twice about doing it if it's a special tree.
Yes.
And the neighbors might, people they know might put some pressure on them to keep a tree
a lot of it probably is
without-
education.
without the city, getting involved in heavy-handedly.
And I think too, I think it'd be really useful for us to research what other communities are doing.
To avoid pitfalls.
I think
like-
there's I found some national registry of heritage trees. So it'd be interesting to know how they suggest people handle it and like what other communities in our area are doing, just Petoskey or Charlotte.
Yeah, people are doing it. If we could find out how they survive the legal threat.
Yeah,
Yeah. And your idea is beautiful, just because. Just because it's on private property, we could absolutely let someone know that
It's still
we
identified.
as a group, as your neighbors. Really enjoy your tree. We think it's important, it's an unusual variety, it's got a beautiful age, et cetera.
That's how the
has
whole-
wildlife benefit.
how the whole bluff stability thing got worked out too. It was neighbors working with neighbors and
Yeah,
so just because maybe it doesn't become an ordinance or something, doesn't mean that we can't still
yeah.
work the public works. But I think first of all, to get that inventory and find out what other communities are doing. So I don't know if this would be something Victor would want to do, or if any of you are particularly interested in Hammond. Me too.
Yeah, my name might be on the list.
Okay.
But so the, on that particular point, it, for me, it kind of ends at, or with the question, knowing that the planning commission is gonna launch into historic protections. If the tree board could find its place in that conversation.
Yeah.
I have another point.
I have to know somebody on the planning commission, and,
Yeah.
so. I don't know if that would, if it'd be easier if we just pursue our thing and they pursue their
Yeah,
thing.
and Victor might say that there's that structure that each board has to do this and that and the other thing, so there might be a structure of that,
Mhm.
yeah, and Victor would know. Yeah. So that's, yeah.
So if
But
we were
then-
to move, go ahead.
And point two, I have a second point to
Yep.
say. So still back to the planning commission conversation last night. So sustainability was another topic that was kicked around. And there are a lot of ways to talk about that, but one that popped in my head afterwards and brought me here as well is invasive species, because we, I don't think people know it. So my question is kind of, do we have an invasive species list
We
for
do,
Harbor Springs? I know the state does. Do
we do,
have
but
one?
maybe we need to, I think we were talking about doing a article in the tree canopy in the paper, a little column that we do
Yeah,
about trees to avoid. I think we're somewhat protected because those trees are not sold in the commercial nursery.
wow. And does the tree board's scope include other kinds of plants?
No.
Only trees?
Only trees.
So only trees. And does anybody deal with other kinds of?
We'll take over the world at some point, but yeah.
We'll consider expanding your scope,
Yeah,
because I have invasive plants I don't want planted or sold.
Yeah. but so shrubs, it's still stuff like that, barberry and green bush, all sorts of stuff, but
Vine, Cassandra.
yeah.
Yeah.
So actually, the invasive species thing also is on our project matrix, so
Great. That's great.
This is
Okay. And now I want to.
Rachel,
I believe your other half on Zoom, it's like Rick,
Rick
with
Terry.
it's hard.
Yeah. Rick, did you have some comments too? You'd like to unmute?
Hello.
Hey, Rick. Thanks for tuning in.
Hi, Rick Tarczynski, 465 State Street. And I just have a question. There was a recent article in the Harbor Lights about oak tree disease going around and killing off a lot of oak trees. And I was wondering if that's something that could be headed to Harbor Springs, and are you going to take that in consideration with your tree list? Maybe take oak trees off so we don't have so many around town. Thank you.
Yep, we do have a formula we try and work by where we don't hit, where we have no more than a certain percentage of particular species. And so, yes, we're very aware of that with oak trees. Unfortunately, most of the trees that are in the city have some type of, either pest or disease that they are threatened by. So if we start cutting out all trees that have any problem, we're going to be in trouble. But yes, thank you. And we are aware.
20%.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks, Rick.
And already in this matrix, that we're working around is to adopt an ordinance prohibiting private property owners from planting invasive tree species. And under new trees, create and adopt a list of trees not allowed to be planted on public property. So those things are,
In the process.
yep, they are.
Good.
We're working on them.
Okay. And nobody else is on Zoom. Okay. Great, let's see. I was gonna suggest, let's get the beginning of the year stuff out of the way before we go into vegetation management. Does that sound okay?
You bet.
Sure.
Okay. New business. First item, elect chair and vice chair. And I've been doing it a long time, and I would love for somebody else to step in if they were so inclined to.
How about nominating Bob, since he's not here?
It's a fair way of doing it.
Yeah. That's been done before. Yeah. Carol, you're declining, I guess.
Yes.
Okay, all right.
I'm willing to be vice chair
All right,
if I was nominated.
good. Okay,
Would it be kosher to
I would
nominate Bob?
no, I don't think so.
No.
He hasn't even done the one board meeting.
I'd like to nominate Dan to be chair.
Motion on the table. Is there a second?
There is a second for me.
Okay, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, motion passes. And I'd like to nominate Carol for vice chair. Motion's on the table. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
All right, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, motion passes. We have a chair and a vice chair.
Thank you, Dana.
Mhm.
Thank you, Carol.
Okay, Rachel is going to run us through the bylaws. I think, the three of us were on last year, so it should be pretty.
Yeah, as long as the members stay the same and not changing our meetings, it'd be good to go.
Tom, would you like to run through the Parks Board bylaws, or do you feel,
I haven't, I've read it, but go ahead.
okay, feel pretty confident about what we do and all that?
Things to do.
And the only thing to highlight in the bylaws would be it's a 5-person board that has not changed this year. Each member shall serve 3 terms. Except the mayor's designee. Attendance meetings, any member of the board shall be subject to removal by city council if you've missed 1/3 of the meeting. Other than that, everything should be, as long as the board is happy with the bylaws, there shouldn't be any changes.
We're subject to open meeting act, so we can't make decisions and more than two people, since we have a small forum on this board.
And these were just revised and adopted last February.
Yeah,
So they're fairly current.
I do see I did not sign this, Rachel.
When Bird's gone, I'll try and find it and get your signature before you leave real quick.
Yeah.
Yeah, the only thing that I'll say about the Open Meetings Act that Dana spoke to is, that takes place with text messages, emails, in person, all of those things. You can meet at social gatherings as long as nothing's discussed. But just be aware that text messages and emails count well. Your text.
We can discuss one-on-one.
Yep. It's always best.
Rachel, on
Yeah.
the signature line, it
Yeah.
says 2020, so when Deanna signs it, it should be effective.
Okay, yeah, I'll speak to her. I think our parts ones might be the same, so.
All right, anything else on the bylaws? Great, let's then move on to the implementation matrix, and just as a little bit of background, this is something that we started, I don't know, maybe 5 years ago, to kind of keep us on track with what are all of our projects and where are we with those projects. So what we do every year, and they're kind of divided into categories, pre-inventory policy, new trees, funding, that kind of thing, is we go through, and each of us, for each of these items, well, we'll discuss as we go, like, sometimes we take them off because we decide it's just not relevant or it's a duplicate of something else. And then we might also add things as well. So, I think we'll just go through each category, and then Rachel will guide us through this. And everybody will say what your priority level is for something. Number 1 being that's top priority, number 3 being close. Then what happens with that is those numbers get culled down, and we come up with an average, and then that basically gives us what our most important projects are that we want to work on for the year.
Deanna, can you explain the matrix, for instance, the goal number?
Yeah, that's in the
Right.
master. If you put those in.
Okay, so that
because
rough-
yes, references, yes, we are working from the master plan. And then status column is self-explanatory, and then who would basically be involved in it. Rachel?
Okay, really similar to Parks Board, same idea.
Yeah, yep.
So we are gonna start with the section tree inventory and assessment. Number 1 on that list is complete the tree inventory for trees on public.
So I just have a question about this. I think it's in our master plan, but we keep voting 3 lowest priority. And I think a lot of us are on the page of, we don't need to spend thousands, tens of thousands of dollars for an inventory. Do we take it off at some point, or do we have to wait until the master plan is updated?
I don't see why you'd have to wait, that's up to the, you can always put it back on. You
Yeah.
do it yearly, so that's up to tree board.
Why don't we go around, and if it's all 3s again, shall we take it off, since it's been that every year in recent history? And this would be, what this would be about is Ben dealing, I don't know, if we had $20,000 to complete this inventory, something like that, going around and making a GIS, meaning every tree in the city. And then Lucas has said that it is not used, so it just seems like kind of a waste to me. Like we have better things to do with that money. Yeah, so let's go around and see what people think.
Okay.
And
Sure.
don't feel bad if you want to vote something other than.
No, I would say that if we don't have the funding for it and people aren't referencing it, then there's no reason to continue to keep it
I'll
out
see
there.
the 3, okay. Kathleen?
I agree, and it makes sense to me. We can start getting information by designating the most important trees we have and identifying them, identifying the worst, sick, whatever, bad trees have to go. And eventually,
And what we've discussed.
that's what we need to know right
is
now.
a
and that makes
simpler option is, let's say every 2 years,
sense.
Lucas and whomever, maybe it's our new parks guy Nate, that also has a background in trees, drive around and just do a spot check on what needs trimming, what's dead, without having to make a huge big deal about it.
So 3, I'm
Save
assuming,
extra money.
3, Henry,
I agree.
3,
Yeah.
Congress.
I'm not along with that, yeah.
Okay.
So I'm just gonna put remove.
Yeah.
That, okay.
And then I would say, by the same token, do we also then, for the second one, also remove that?
Update the tree inventory as trees are added and you don't want that.
Okay. Okay, which brings us to what I was just talking about, just kind of an assessment of the health of each tree. My personal opinion, and this is Dana talking too much again, I'm very sorry, but I don't think it needs to be done every year. I think if you do like an every other year, maybe you split the city up and, do half one year, half the next year and alternate. So I would like to recommend that we change annual to biannual. And biannual means every other year, or does it mean twice a year? Did I
Every
say
other.
confusing?
Semi, quite some,
Okay,
I used it.
thank you. So let's go around and see what people think about that. So this would be
We all
part of,
agreed, so
part of
let's
our-
change it to biannual.
yeah,
Okay. Sorry, I'm trying to take notes for Victor.
Yeah, that's good.
Okay. Okay, and then so now we're gonna rank it on a biannual basis, okay? So,
this would be health and safety things like, does it interfere with utilities? Is it hanging over a sidewalk and if dead branches can hit somebody can? Go ahead, Karen.
Yeah, I think I would put that as a 1.
1, Kathleen?
I agree with the biannual. And,
What would you rank it as?
1, yes.
Yeah,
One,
Henry,
One.
One,
okay.
all right, estimate the amount of water each tree receives. Not sure what that means. I'm sure you do.
Well, to me, it doesn't seem like a practical thing.
Right.
No,
So I would recommend removing it, but let's see what everybody thinks.
I recommend that. And it seems like if we're doing a survey of the health of the trees, that can be captured in that data.
Mhm.
And there's not a lot we can do about it too. Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna say remove.
Tom, you're good with that too?
Sure.
Okay.
Create a map that shows tree locations by species.
I think this kind of follows in on with, if we don't have an inventory of trees, then we can't really do that.
This is super easy, guys.
Okay,
Okay,
good.
so we're just gonna remove item 5 then, is that what we're thinking?
Mhm.
Yes.
And I think you're gonna find the next one follows.
Okay, create GIS mapping overlays that distinguish between trees on public and private property.
Mhm.
So that would require an inventory, so,
So we probably need to remove that if we're not doing it.
I would think so.
Are we all okay? Kathleen?
I don't understand why it would require an inventory. Isn't it just,
The GIS map, actually pinpoints in space where every tree is, and then a map of it. So you can't create a GIS map if you don't have pinpoint inventory.
It'd be helpful to have a map for the tree board that still distinguishes though between private and public property without the specific.
yeah, that's what I mean.
Would that still be helpful when they discuss like districts for the block?
A map with borders that we used at the.
Or a
last
border
meeting.
map, yeah,
A
then like a
border map,
specific tree,
But
simplifying
don't we
it.
have that though?
Probably, maybe, yeah, I don't know.
I would take GIS off because it would not.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think
Oh,
that's what's
okay.
confusing.
Okay,
Well,
so
confused me.
let me think of how to word this, so,
We're on the same page.
I think of how. Do we wanna remove it or do we wanna reword? Victor may have input too on it, I'm sure he will, so if we wanna leave it on there. and
No,
take it-
Victor had, remember at our last meeting, Victor
Yeah.
had a map.
That map was great.
Oh, okay, so then,
Yeah,
so
so
just
we
remove it. We
So,
have one.
Rachel, when do we say completed?
Completed.
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay, so item 6, mark. Complete.
And it was very specific. It showed tiny little public
Yes.
land pieces in town that most of us weren't even aware of.
All right, and then, indicate trees that are near utility poles or other city infrastructure that may pose a problem for either the tree or the infrastructure.
Is that part of an annual assessment of trees?
That's what I thought, but
Yeah. So it's kind of redundant, maybe.
But it's a buy-in.
But that doesn't have
Yes.
anything to do with how healthy a tree is. It could be very healthy and that could be the problem, interfering with
Okay,
the
all right, okay.
infrastructure.
Do we
But
say
that's
a
an ongoing-
biannual assessment?
Well, it says here ongoing and
Well, ongoing means we haven't really, that's something they do on an ongoing basis.
exactly,
Oh,
they do that now.
okay, so could we,
Yeah,
I think that's an
Yeah.
important one.
I do
because
too.
If we're not paying attention to that and during a storm, it takes down a pole.
Mhm.
mhm.
so leave it and just.
I know it's an ongoing thing in our neighborhood and
Yeah.
it's a good idea, it's needed.
Do we want to go around, does everybody want on that one, is that okay?
Yes,
Tom, that's okay, number 1 on that one,
yeah.
Sure.
okay?
All right, identify and protect significant trees such as landmark and heritage trees.
There you go, Pam.
See, that's even more important now because other parts of the community are bringing it to our attention, so. yeah, she
And
brought that up
actually,
to
my
one.
note on here says private property. So, should we say that to 1 and let's get it underway?
Everyone
That's
one?
it up to one.
Tom, 1. Okay. Moving on to. I am leaving obnoxious mom. All right, policy, let me go. Number 1 is create a policy of diversity of species with caps for various applications.
That's done.
It's done.
Oh, that's completed, never mind that. Okay, so.
And then we get back to, do we leave some things on the list, or do we start a new list for things to get moved to once they're done?
So parks, just for reference, we ran into this as well. What do we keep and what do we take off? And we decided to move all of our completed items to our completed matrix. Because Dan and I all the time are like, what year did this happen? Like, when did we do this? Like, we can't remember.
I think it's a good idea.
great
But it
idea.
shows everything that you've
I would hate to
completed.
get rid of it because, yeah,
You don't want to get rid of the
No.
things you've done. You want to remember those, because sometimes you may have to go back to those things.
exactly.
5, 10 years, and then someone can say, oh, this was done at one point. Now let's go back. You're not recreating the wheel rather for someone else.
So by consensus, could we say that we would like to complete a completed project?
Yeah, I'll leave a note at the end. Yeah, the ranking.
Okay.
So item 2, create a policy that encourages capping the percentage of any tree species in the city right of way at 20% of the total number of trees in the city's right of way. Wow, okay. That means revise a plan to replace trees that exceed this limit as they die off or are damaged.
That was part of what we did for the first one.
So it would be ongoing. Not started.
Yeah. I don't know if it has to be an ordinance, or maybe that's something to check with Victor on, Rachel.
Okay, so, well, let's rank it and then I'll just leave a
Okay.
note to, Carol,
I leave it as a 1.
1, Kathleen,
Me too, yes.
Yes.
Henry,
One.
Tom.
One.
Develop guidelines for city staff and the tree advisory board to follow when considering a resident's request to remove trees from public property.
So that would be a list of criteria, like, is the tree diseased? Does it interfere with utilities? I think that's legit.
Yeah, I think that's important.
And important.
A 1.
It is.
I would leave it as a 1.
Mhm. Yes, one.
1, yeah,
One.
Henry,
One.
Tom.
One.
Require property owners to erect or install protective barriers around city trees.
That's just a really good best practice for trees, because if you run bulldozers and stuff over the root systems, it impacts the soil. And there can be no oxygen exchange. So yeah, I would say that's one.
And that's on city trees, like near,
Yeah,
private property.
so a lot of cities that do have ordinances on for private property, they do that for private property as well.
Carol,
I give it as one.
one, Kathleen,
Agreed.
One,
Henry,
One. Three.
clarify and expand the definition of destruction of trees in ordinance 423 to include the poisoning of trees.
that seems like a simple enough thing to do.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's a good one. Carol,
One.
Kathleen,
One,
Dana,
One,
Henry,
One.
Tom.
Give me one.
Right, require applicants requesting to remove street trees for non-view reasons to replant a tree in its place or at another agreed upon location, or contribute the value of the removed tree in the city's tree fund. Oh, I love that.
but what if the tree is diseased? Then do we have to require them to replace it?
You decide that when you do the policy.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of what other reasons of it use somebody with blowing a tree gun. Buckling the sidewalk,
Yeah, if they don't like that particular kind of tree.
okay, yeah, okay,
I mean, I
Yeah.
suppose they could not like an oak tree because they don't like the acorns on it. You know, or something.
Mhm. Yeah,
Carol,
One.
Kathleen,
the one,
Anna,
one,
Henry,
One.
Tom.
One.
Require future residential and commercial development to provide street trees in the right of way along existing road frontage. I think in green. Is that green?
yeah, I'm not sure.
Okay. Henry.
This would be, Rob Michaels is building the home on 119
119.
west of town. Would he then be required to put a street tree in? A lot of communities do this.
In the right of. So on that property, where would the right of way be?
That's a big wide right.
All the way along one.
Yeah, yeah. And there could be cases maybe where there's already trees there where you wouldn't, but, I think
or
that's.
maybe there's an issue with the block of view, public view. So require is a strong word.
It is a strong word. Maybe it's a
You
two.
could reword it to give them an incentive to do so somehow, maybe not require them, but some incentive. program.
Encourage.
Like, yeah, encourage would be a better, and then you decide once you get to that line, how you're gonna encourage that. I agree, require might be strong, but encourage or like some sort of incentive, you
But
know.
if they had to required a plan base. Because then you could sit down with them
Yeah.
and talk about
That makes sense.
what options might be available would be appropriate. On that particular.
No, they're already covered if their plan takes out trees, they already need to replace them, right?
But what if there's no trees there?
Yeah, so this would be adding.
So does that mean that we're punishing people for building a new home, whereas if they'd left the existing home? I don't know about this one.
Hmm.
How about we put item 7 possibly reword
Yeah,
Yeah,
instead of remove, so Victor knows
Yeah.
that there were some questions, and then we could just rank it as is for now.
Okay.
Does that sound good?
Mhm.
Carol,
Two.
Kathleen?
oh, so we're still assigning a number to it?
Yeah, we'll assign a number to it, and then Victor will just leave a note that the board
Okay.
wishes to,
Choose fine.
okay, so reword.
2.
Henry,
Two.
Tom,
I'll go two with them.
I'll highlight the ones that we kind of stopped at.
Need some work on.
Yeah. Where were we? Where were we? Require future, adopt an ordinance prohibiting private property owners from planting invasive tree species.
On private property? Or on public property.
It
Private
says
property.
private property. Prohibiting private property owners from planting invasive tree. Can we do that?
I don't know, I think this is maybe why it was 3 is that, you know, can you enforce it? Do you want to get into a dangerous situation? Maybe this is something that, yeah, I don't know, it's beyond tree board that maybe needs to, we could make a recommendation, I guess, to council. How do you feel about that one, Pam? You think that we would be within our rights to require people not to put invasive tree species on their property?
I tell them to do it on their own property. We
Yeah.
got too many laws already, I think.
Yeah.
Again, you could encourage or educate.
Well, and then
You have a
there's,
list of invasive species you're concerned about?
yeah,
We do, the
well,
city does.
you know, and it's. So it's like Bradford pear, you know, flowering pear, which is one of the most popular landscape trees there is, that's on the list. But what if somebody wants to put them in because their wife passed away and it was her favorite tree, you know, it's just,
Yeah, this is, addresses what you were talking about.
The state of Michigan has invasive trees. Is a Bradford pear on that one, for example?
Yeah.
sorry. I think so.
So what the fact that the state or county, but the state has a list of invasive trees that were made known to the public and the nurseries. This is not gonna get you off the hook, but get you in the direction you'd like to go with someone with a higher power saying no Bradford pears for you.
But I don't think the state is saying no Bradford pears, they're just
Or whatever the
saying,
invasive, at least the invasive list that's established by the state be made known to residents, property owners.
and that could be like an education thing, like.
Yes.
But like some of these, even like the heritage trees, like that's on private property, I didn't know. And you just say that tree's a nuisance, I'm gonna take it out, but if someone came and said, hey, like. We can't tell you what to do, but these are the reasons we encourage you to keep it, that may change someone's mind.
Exactly.
Not all trees are the same, people don't understand, I mean, the general public, even I don't understand that concept.
So how about if we change this from adopt an ordinance to provide guidelines or
Yeah.
something like that?
Provide a list of, or something like that.
Where is it published? Like, people, I don't, as a general rule, I don't think people know that there are invasive trees and plants.
It might be in the tree master. But let's check that,
But
and
if
if
you're
not, it
on
should be.
the nursery and you're going, that's a pretty one. Can't really go, maybe I better Google
And
this.
so we could do an article in the paper.
Yep.
That could be a way to do it.
Yeah.
Right,
Okay, so I'm just gonna say for item 8, reword to educate on invasive species.
so that could be important,
Yeah.
whereas in ordinance, we would say, no. You wanna go around?
Yeah, Carol,
2.
Kathleen,
Not one,
yeah,
One,
Henry,
2. 2.
all right. What is the vegetation management policy, street tree planting application and zoning code to require a minimum 3-year guarantee for all tree plantings required or approved by the city?
if I could give just a minute background on that. So normally a landscaper would give you a 1-year warranty on a plant. If you ask for 3 years, they're probably gonna triple the cost of the tree. And, you know, if there's something like that it was planted in properly, it could very well like limp along for 3 years. And then you're no further ahead, so I just don't think it's a good idea.
Yeah, I would say that's not typical as far as what guarantees they give,
Mhm.
and it's probably not.
Definitely not 3, I suppose you could do 2, but
You know,
What's
mine
the
were
norm?
1 year. When
The
I,
norm is
when I
1?
had the
Okay.
nurse.
what if we changed it to 1?
do we know what the vegetation management policy?
We're working on it right now. We're
Is-
gonna discuss it today.
Well, it says to edit it to require a minimum of 3. I'm wondering if there's already verbiage there.
It says 1,
That says 1, in which case we.
so
do
let's
nothing.
verify that, Rachel.
Maybe,
Okay.
yeah,
Okay.
So why don't we cross off 3 and put 1, and then do we all think that we at least want 1-year warranty?
I'm sure.
So one by consensus, I guess.
Carol?
And on that same one,
Yeah.
I would say one.
Kathleen?
One,
Yeah.
One for 1 year.
Henry?
One,
Oh,
two,
and it may already say 1 year, so that then it would just be removed, so we'll check when we get there. Adopt an ordinance or policy that places limits on the removal of designated heritage.
So do we have this in here somewhere else?
we have 50 days to list of designated heritage trees.
it doesn't say.
Okay, that's under tree inventory assessment, the last item. Identify and protect significant trees such as landmark and heritage.
What's the definition of a heritage tree?
Based on size, like a 4-foot diameter oak tree. Or based on, cultural significance, like, the trees that the Odawas twisted to point away. But see, we need to do more research to even find out what that means, what is a heritage tree, so. So I feel like that,
Of course, if you don't have a definition.
yeah, we need to do more work on that. So I don't think we're ready to do an ordinance
Okay, that's
on
why
it,
it's
so
not
I
ready.
think,
That's why it's.
should we just take that out, because the other one says identify and protect significant trees.
Mhm.
I just take this one off because it's redundant.
Okay. Stipulate in the zoning code that all landscaping and screening trees for commercial projects shall be planted in accordance with the American National Standards Institute. Planting standards.
Anybody know what that is?
I do.
They just say user commercial.
Yeah, so hopefully all of our landscapers are doing that and DPW is doing that. I don't think it would hurt to stipulate it. This would involve things like not planting a tree way too deep in the ground where it becomes like a bathtub and the tree drowns. Or it would be like taking the rope and the burlap off the top.
Yeah, to ensure the ongoing health of the trees.
Yeah.
And it specifies commercial projects too.
Yeah.
To keep it on
Yes, I would keep the
one, Kathleen?
One,
Yeah. Henry?
One.
Change the zoning code to require applicants creating new parking lots or redeveloping a parking lot. Plant 1 tree on the property for 5 parking spaces.
Again, just background, that's pretty standard in other communities.
I keep
Carol?
it a one.
Kathleen?
one,
Yeah.
Fun.
Henry?
One, two,
Alright, require forest management plans before development or redevelopment commences in certain zoning districts or on properties of certain sizes where the city wants to preserve the integrity of the forest habitat.
I think that gets into us saying what can happen on private property. Is that how you guys read it?
says certain zoning districts, but not which zoning districts.
I can see a copy of a management plan. Do we have a copy of the blank forest management plan?
Yeah, I'm just trying to think what the application would be. Like, let's say you bought a wooded piece of property. Would this prevent you from clearing for your house? Or like, let's say you bought a property on Glen Drive, where there's a million trees. And you're the one person in Glen Drive that doesn't like trees and you want sunshine in your house, maybe that's what this is about.
Should be able to cut trees-
Sorry, Tom?
should be able to cut trees if you go.
Would you change it to commercial, similar to the parking spots? Like if a business came in and they had a certain amount of space that was vegetation, they would need a vegetation. Still private property, but Just see how you
I
could
don't know
reword
about
it.
this one.
I-
We hit it
Or
as
just remove
one.
it.
I think this is infringing on private property.
Yeah.
Yeah, if someone has a wooded piece of property and they want to cut all the trees down to build a house with
We've
space
talked
around it,
about it.
they should be able to do that.
It's just devastating to watch somebody clear cut a property.
They could,
But still, it's their
It's
property,
their
right?
property.
Yeah.
the bluff would be
Let's go
similar.
around. Sorry?
Bluff would be similar.
We have property in our neighborhood that they just took all the trees down to build a house. It's a small piece of property. And it's surrounded by trees. I mean,
How long did they move to Nebraska?
Sorry?
How long did they move to Nebraska? If they don't like trees, why are they buying a tree farm? How long did they move to Nebraska?
That's an excellent recommendation. Let's put that in an
Are
ordinance.
we removing 13?
Well, let's go around.
or maybe they just moved here from California and they know how important it is to have a defensible space around their house.
Thinking your job is.
That's a good point, you know, somebody that's worried about fire or.
You have to
Carol,
live
what
in
do
the
you say?
woods, you wanna have clear space around, anyway, so there could be a lot.
I guess if it's on,
Bottom,
Yeah,
bottom line, if it's on private property, I don't think we
yeah, I
have.
think, I mean, I
Say
think
about
there are cities and townships though that have regulations on it. I lived in Woodville Township and I believe that if you cut down a certain number, you had to replace them even though it was on private property. I believe that was.
I lived
The
in,
clear cutting is.
I did live in California and there were trees that are protected by the state that you're not allowed to cut down. They're redwood trees, but
Redwoods,
still,
yeah.
we have some, you know, we had a tiny yard and we had a redwood tree in it.
State's doing the most clear cutting on around the country at all.
Sorry.
State has done all kinds of clear
The
cutting.
state, I know.
Taking everything in some areas.
When it's, this conversation, when it's public and private, it's what the conversation, but if it's so, if the house property, the land is in an association. An association can have different rules that
They can.
apply,
Oh, yeah.
correct?
Yeah.
Sure.
So some of those are in associations. Do the associations get on board with the idea of protecting the trees that
I
are?
bet there's something on Glen Drive
Yeah.
out there.
Yeah, so like, can the tree board encourage associations to? Tell them
How
no?
many associations do we have in town?
Oh, we've got a couple.
And see, yeah, and for some,
And it's Forest Beach ours?
Forest Beach is not in town.
Oh, it's
Yeah,
not.
and we.
But they don't own the land, correct?
I like the idea of,
Oh, they
you know,
don't.
like if
That's
somebody takes
easy.
out a forest, we
It's like-
started,
That's still public.
we started looking at the concept of reforestation. So maybe we take some parks or something where we create a little mini forest where there wasn't one before. And maybe that kind of work would offset people who hate trees and want to cut off their trees down. I don't know. So let's go around and see what we think. So I think we're kind of saying no, but Carol,
Yeah, I would reluctantly say we can't control what they do on the private
I
property. We can
agree.
encourage them.
I agree.
Yeah.
are we gonna say 3 or are we gonna say take it off?
Yeah, I'm just asking if you want to just remove it.
I would remove it.
But I would say remove it.
You can-
Tom?
We move now.
Yeah.
Move. I know.
Kind of the hallmark of the American Republic is being able to,
Well, yeah, when you make rules, you ought to enforce them, not just have them and never pay attention. to
Yeah,
them, what you see happen all the time.
So here's another one, create restrictions on the clear cutting of property.
That sort of thing.
take it off. Pam, are you like rolling over here? This is really, it is really hard.
Yeah, I think.
Or
it's
what
just a
about somebody
continuous
that has
education.
like debilitating allergies to trees? They shouldn't buy a piece of property because it has,
5 acres out of a cornfield someplace.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we also have to remember, just 'cause we're taking it, if you take it off today, doesn't mean it can't go back on.
Sure.
It's not, this isn't like a stone document by any means, so,
This is gonna be so quick and easy next year.
And
We're
and
getting
Victor
it
might
out.
have background on some of this.
yeah, that's
Um,
stuff.
Well, this is what's gonna give us our projects and that's important, so.
Yeah.
Okay, next one.
Edit the vegetation management policy to incorporate guidelines for reviewing how a city projects trees in the urban forest.
I think that's one.
Bethany,
One,
One.
Tom,
Three.
okay. Document and track expenses related to tree planting, care, and outreach based on the expense categories outlined in section 8.2.
I don't know what that means. I don't know. what
How
it
that
means.
means.
So if we don't know what it means, do we just take it out?
I'm looking for 8.2.
Well, you're gonna add up the what you spend if you don't know what it is.
Or maybe we were trying to like better track like, the work of the tree board. You know, so that we have like a line item, like Nick would put a line item for trees in the budget.
I don't know what section 8.2 of the master plan says, so I don't know what it means to.
I think it'd be good to know, you know, like
Well,
what we
that's what I was-
spend,
Yeah, the document and track, there's nothing.
because we have no budget.
So let's
right
just
now.
score it,
downside
and then
about
Rick
that.
can,
Yeah,
Carol?
I'm sorry, so we're gonna score it?
Yeah, let's score it since we don't, then if we decide you want, like I said, this isn't like a final.
Maybe like have Victor clean up the
Yeah.
language, that we just wanna track what our expenses are, so maybe someday we actually have a budget for tree board.
Okay, I give it a 2.
Kathleen?
sure, I give it a 2.
Yeah,
I'd say 1.
Henry,
2.
3.
3.
Applicants proposing to remove trees should be required to replace the tree with another tree that is at least 2.5 inches in diameter at DBH or as the tree board recommends.
I feel like this was a duplicate of something we already talked about.
Should this be, is this for all properties or is this for city property?
Trees on city property,
Doesn't say that.
let's say that. Rachel, if you wanna add that?
Yeah, okay, so public property.
I'd give that a 1.
Kathleen?
1,
Yeah.
1.
Henry?
1.
Tom?
1.
So is that the same though as, was on page 2, the second one down? This is, there's just been so much redundancy in here over the years, but I think if we can get it cleaned up, that would be good. So maybe we
it is the
take,
same, isn't it?
let's take out that other one, this is more clear.
Where?
Yeah.
What are you taking out?
On page 2, the second one that says requires applicants requesting to remove street trees for non-view reasons to replant a tree. Or contribute,
So keep what, the one on the second page rather than this?
yeah,
one?
let's keep the one on the second page, but let's say 2.5 inches. In diameter. And then we'll take this last one we just talked about, yeah. Okay, move into new trees.
Identify neighborhoods with relatively few that's completed.
Yep. Planting plan for that completed.
Right,
Okay, this next one might be another redundant one about invasive species.
create and adopt a list of trees not allowed to be planted on public property. Oh, we had that.
I thought we did too, so we just had that on.
You wanna rank it? I'm pretty sure that's completed.
Okay. I think we did it, but it'd be nice to cross one of them out.
Okay, so you think that we've already done that?
Yeah, well, we'll rank it, it's okay.
1, if we haven't. done that.
Kathleen,
1,
yeah,
One,
Henry,
1.
2.
2.
And then, all right, so number 4, create a separate preferred tree species planting list for different types of public property such as trees for the right of way, park trees, screening trees, waterfront trees. Complete, oh, sorry.
This next one seems redundant.
All city trees should be planted in accordance with American National Standard. I feel like, yeah, you would add that to the other one.
Wherever that is.
I can find it. Item 5, merge.
Okay, merge.
If we're all okay with that.
Yep.
Yes.
Okay. And then,
I think we take the next one off. New tree planting should occur early spring or late fall. Do you remember our discussion about planting should occur when your landscaper is available?
Right,
okay, so remove item 6.
right.
And I guess stipulating that there's 1-year guarantee.
Gets
Because
to that,
they're not
yeah.
gonna plant it when it's not gonna thrive. if they
Hopefully
got a
they're gonna
guarantee.
tell you to give it lots of water and all that good
Mhm.
stuff.
Okay, create street planting guidelines for trees to be planted in between sidewalks and trees. Carol,
1.
Kathleen,
One,
Dana,
One, I think we covered it.
I can cover 2. Couple of these. 1,
Tom,
2,
okay. Irrigation and water availability will be considered for each tree planted.
So this would have to do with like if we're doing street tree planting and there's no sprinklers, that we pick species that are drought tolerant kind of thing. So I think this is important.
Carol,
1.
Kathleen,
one, excuse me.
One.
Henry,
1,
Tom,
1.
where are we? Consider the specific functional and aesthetic criteria as well as physical constraints when selecting a tree to be planted.
I think that's very subjective and vague.
Yes.
Mm,
I would take it out, but
You all right with that?
I'm all right with that too.
remove it.
Remove 9. And then,
Victor's gonna have a heart attack. when he comes back. I was thinking the same thing.
consider watering methods and water availability at each site before approving tree planting.
Okay, and this is definitely redundant,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
There's 1, 2 above it.
Yeah.
Okay. Install irrigation systems where feasible.
I would say 2. Because those are for existing trees, right?
Here's what I would say, if we're let's say we're planting some street trees, then I believe we have this as a policy that they go in now, or at parks, with gator bags. And then we now have Nate that's gonna keep the gator bags filled. And really, you need to just get a tree through the first 2 or 3 years, and then it's on its own. So to go to all the expense of putting in an irrigation system for trees, I don't think it's worth it.
Yeah, tree specifically, I would say that doesn't make too much.
Do we take it out?
Hmm.
Sure.
So a gator bag is not considered an irrigation system? No, probably not. You know what I mean?
It's a
Or
job.
what if we changed it to install gator bags and keep filled for all new plantings? That is something that happened with those oak trees down by the church, is that they were not kept full and have
Oh,
Or reword to have guidelines for the first 2 years of watering. You know, like,
install irrigation guidelines?
yeah, for the first 2 years of any planting. So we'll just say reword.
reword for gator bags.
So I
And
would say
specifically say 2 years. Does that make?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's good.
Word,
Yep, 2 years.
Okay, so I would give that a 1.
1, okay, 1.
I agree, one.
1.
1, 2,
Moving on, tree maintenance. I gotta go to another page.
If I could just make a comment before this.
Yeah.
I think almost all of this stuff is part of Lucas's ongoing trimming. So could we kind of look at them all together and just say they're all important? just to save a little time.
We have them right that way already.
Yeah.
That makes
Some
sense.
of these are redundant. So for instance, if you look at number 3 on the list, perform systematic trimming is needed per ANSI standards. Is that kind of what we already said? That the
No, that
city,
was
or is that
planting
different?
trees.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, this is
Different, okay.
maintenance.
I know this says train DPW employees. Okay.
I would put all of them as a 1. Be my recommendation.
Yep. I
All
agree with
ones,
that.
Kathleen,
I agree.
Mary,
Sure.
perfect, moving on.
Community outreach.
Publicize right tree, right place.
For those who don't know, that's a document that's on our website that goes through trees and are they suitable street trees, are they drought tolerant, et cetera.
Create a not suitable tree list for trees. City recommends homeowners avoid planting on private property.
I think that's good to publicize it, but I feel like we said it somewhere else,
Yeah.
right?
Well, I think why some of these are duplicated is because they're in different categories.
Well, it's because some are, we were saying requiring, and now we're saying
This is community
educate.
outreach.
Yeah, so it's
Yeah.
kind of so some of those ones we removed. Due to private can now, you could move over to community outreach. Instead of saying like, we're not requiring you to do this,
Mhm.
now it's gonna be an educational piece instead.
So Rachel, would you go back through and?
Yeah, I'll
Okay.
take a look. I'll have to type all this up anyway. 'Cause I
Where did
really
this
read it.
list come from?
Say that?
Where did this list come from?
Year to year.
Yeah, year to year, the tree board would add, remove.
It used to be about 4 times as long as this, and so we are whittling it down.
Can't do everything.
No, you certainly can't.
Someone. Don't believe so. Don't believe so. Our
That's
parks
a great
one
idea,
isn't,
though,
I
Pam.
don't-
I want to copy.
Yeah,
It's real nice, for other.
so do we want,
People want to know what the tree board's doing, yeah.
so do we want to keep it on there and rank it? As public outreach, number 2?
Yeah, and then if you can find other references elsewhere, then let's take those out.
Okay, so Carol?
1.
Kathleen?
1.
1. Henry?
2,
Henry, were you a 1?
yes.
Okay, sorry. Missed that. Distribute tips and guidelines to residents on how to care for and maintain newly planted trees.
I think we've done it
Now, how,
in tree canopy. But maybe
oh,
we need to have this like a publication that people could click on that would have pruning, planting trees.
invasive species, have all that
Yeah.
together.
Yeah,
It'd
Yeah.
be cool if you could have, I
Because it-
know we've talked about it like with other boards. Like when someone moves to town, basically give them a packet and say, welcome to town.
Mhm.
Like, here are our guidelines, here are the things we recommend. Then, like I said, you're not requiring, but you're just kind of giving them all that information. How you go about that, I have no idea. But just an idea to get the word out.
suggestion is what if we try and create a document that would include right tree, right place, the non-suitable trees, and tips on how to care for trees.
Yes.
Okay, so you wanna work
Let's somehow combine all of those into one category.
all 3, so combine all 3.
Yeah,
Um,
How about including information on, invasive?
I think that's not suitable.
Okay.
All right, so I'm just gonna take all 3 items, I'm just gonna say combine.
And you could
Which
just
one do you
put,
think?
create a
Yeah.
public document that includes blah, blah, blah.
All right, moving on. Organize tree stewards and activists to generate public support for the protection of the city's urban forests.
I don't even know what would be involved in that, you know?
Yeah, it sounds difficult to me to do that. And it may be that if we have these other documents available for people.
Well, and
that
we could-
wouldn't need it.
Yeah,
Are we thinking remove-
we do have a list of people that have helped us with tree stuff. Pam's gonna get put on that.
So we want to
But
remove,
it's like I was thinking, yeah, here, I'll talk about that in a minute.
remove item 4?
No, I think we
Leave
leave
it.
it, yeah, and
Okay.
then we'll specify.
All right, so Carol,
Two, then I guess it's fine.
Here, Kathleen,
I'd leave it at 2.
2. Henry,
Two.
Work with private businesses such as landscapers, tree trimming, removal companies, and realtors to help spread information about relevant tree issues. That's a good one.
I don't know, it's kind of, how practically are you gonna do it? Are you gonna, go tell Keller, this is how to trim trees? you
Yeah,
know?
it's like, it's a good concept, but executing it is going to be
So
extremely.
we shouldn't have stuff in here that we can't.
Yeah,
I
no, I would
would
agree.
agree.
You shouldn't have something that you can't.
You wanna take it off?
I would.
Okay,
You.
everybody?
Sure.
Sure. Okay, host workshops or live demonstrations on how to properly, that's completed.
It's completed.
All right, the other one's, the next one's completed unless anyone has
Yeah,
anything
that was, yep.
they want to say.
How many pages are there?
Yeah, this is like the longest one they make yourself.
Oh my God, I know, and it used to be twice as long as this, so next year will be better. Hang
Collaborate
in there, guys.
with local conservancy and outdoor nonprofits to create meaningful educational material and outreach programming related to urban forestry.
I say 2, Leonard.
Carol,
Yeah, that's fine too.
2.
2.
Henry,
2. 3.
Okay. Engage with appropriate Harbor Springs School District staff to create youth-based activities and workshops that teach students about trees in the urban forest.
Can I say something about this?
Yeah.
Back when my kids were in elementary school, whatever grade level, they all created a leaf collection. And to this day, this is how I figured out, what a sugar maple leaf looks like. I think that'd be fun to do something like that with the schools if we could get them interested. If we're trying to create the tree stewards of tomorrow.
Carol,
Yeah, I would. I'd make it 1.
Kathleen,
You bet 1.
Diana, 1, Henry,
1.
1. Hold an annual public forum that specifically focuses on residents' tree concerns, issues, or questions.
Based on how many people come to our meeting, I would say that may not be.
Yep.
We fall into the category if it's.
You can always add it
Too
to.
nice.
Mhm.
So we take that off, are we in agreement?
Yes.
Yeah.
Would it, in the ongoing conversation about, zoning code, would there be any place in one of those meetings or a specialty meeting added to the agenda that the tree board would host or co-host?
Like we have a captive audience.
Yeah. I mean, is that a thing you can do? 'Cause, okay.
I just feel like that ought to be just kept clean and clear and, not muddied up by anything else. It's so complicated.
Okay.
It's a great idea though, like get a bunch of people who are captured. Well, this is what we're gonna do with the tree report. We'll talk about that in a minute.
I wonder if we could do something like this in conjunction with Arbor Day. If we publicize it as a public forum, I was looking for ideas on what to do and how to get people there, especially if we do it in the spring when they're thinking about planning.
But that's what we do every year. And we have topics and that kind of thing.
No, but she's saying maybe a public
The
forum where
specific-
people could specifically bring any concerns
Yeah, we might give a couple of questions and.
Okay, well, do we have Arbor Day? So why don't we put that under Arbor Day then?
Yep.
Yep, so that's like 4 down.
So
Include a public forum.
I'll add that when we get there.
We'll take that off. Oh,
Yeah. So create surveys to gather feedback on a particular tree or urban forest issue or challenge.
yay, we've got our survey out right now.
So are we saying that's completed?
Yes.
Maintain a presence at public events to disseminate information about tree issues.
We've talked about that, like having a tent at
the farmer's market.
farmer's market like Garden Club does.
Because Garden Club does it twice season. and are looking, we may do it more often, but last year we did it twice.
That makes sense to me.
Do
Carol?
we have to have our own tent or can we share tents or, I don't know. I'm just trying to think.
Oh, yeah, you could share. There.
Okay, well, let's vote.
Carol,
I would say, one.
Kathleen,
Agree, one.
Two.
yeah. Henry,
2,
um,
cool.
give specific tree species seed packets to residents and students for planting on private property.
I think it's so much better to give people little seedlings that might actually have a chance of growing.
Yeah, and that's what we typically
Yeah.
do with Arbor Day.
So you're moving it,
Yes.
1, 2.
And change from seed packets to seedlings.
Or should we put that under Arbor Day?
Mhm.
Yeah,
So every year we will do seedlings and that's what we have done so far. Okay,
create an Arbor Day program. Completed. but
and so can we
can-
put a couple of
Yeah.
components in being, distribute seedlings and include a public forum?
Yeah.
And then let's say an educational aspect, like I think Eric Hemingway is so good and people just
Oh,
love him
Gosh, it's good.
when he speaks, so, yeah.
It's a wonderful storyteller.
Okay, so we're gonna keep that as a 1, because it's a completed item.
But it's,
Ongoing.
or should we say
Come on.
ongoing? Let's say
How
ongoing.
about calling it annual?
Yeah.
Because we do it every year.
Yeah. So a new category under not completed but annual. And I have a comment on the next one about tree identification signs. We did that for an Arbor Day one year at Kiwanis. And they're basically all gone.
What happened to them, do you think?
Well,
They got kicked over, they got blown when somebody was blowing leaves. We've talked, and Tom probably doesn't know about this, you guys might not either, but we've talked about like, if we do some type of nature park, back over here at some point, it'd be kind of cool to have an arboretum where there's different trees with plaques that, so kids can learn about trees. But maybe not to do it all over town.
well, we could start with the heritage trees. Landmark trees, heritage,
If they're on somebody's property.
unless they're on private, unless they would want it.
Right, we could ask.
Yeah.
Plaque.
Okay.
And there are different ways of identifying trees
Mhm.
that are not, that become part of the tree. It's not, it can't be easily removed. I don't know what those are, but I know.
Well,
I've
yeah,
seen them.
the arborist suggests that we not drill holes into the trees.
No.
And then those little stakes that we had used at Kiwanis, that's not a permanent solution. So,
I'll volunteer to do some research on.
Okay, great.
Some other method.
Carol,
One.
Kathleen,
One,
Deanna,
2.
Henry,
2,
Cool.
cool.
Recruit volunteers for taking tree planting and maintenance.
I don't think we have to vote really because it's ongoing. We always have to get people to help us plant trees and then hopefully for Arbor Day, Henry will gather the troops from the high school, right?
Yeah.
So can we just leave that at 1?
sure.
Create a tree awareness packet that includes information about disease, tree, okay, well, this is.
This is
super
what we just
redundant.
talked about.
So do we just wanna remove it, cause I'm merging
Yes.
the other 3, okay. So remove. And then utilize cities, parks, and recreation department to host nature walks and other tree or forest related activities that teach citizens about the city's urban forest.
Hard to know the interest level.
We're gonna do, the parks is gonna have their walking club on Tuesday. So we
Yeah.
can kind of see what, to get a big group for our walking club, see what their interest is in doing trails or pave.
Or
or
You
those
do
things.
flowers one week,
Yeah, or
the garden club, you
Yeah.
could do trees one week. All right, let's vote.
Carol,
I like it. One.
Kathleen,
I like it too, one.
I like it too, one.
Henry,
Two,
Tom.
1,
Educate residents on observing trees for potential pests and diseases. That's kind of, again,
Let's put that, let's make sure that's in that packet, or whatever one it ends
Yeah.
up on.
Okay.
We'll take it out of there, wherever that packet is. Take out the last page.
right, funding. Hold on one second, I got that. Make sure I can read my own notes. Request the city dedicates annual money to the tree planting care. That looks like it's completed.
Well, we did it 1 year.
Also,
So when we get to the tree report, you'll see that, I'm recommending that we ask an annual budget for trees.
okay,
So
so do we want to change to annual?
Annual, yep, good. And do we all think that's a one?
Yes.
Yeah, I do.
Mhm.
Tom? One,
sure. I think that, yeah, afterwards is, it's just a number, not just money.
Yeah,
Of course.
I have it in the tree report. We'll see it in a minute. We're running
Yeah.
a little over here, guys, sorry.
hold an annual fundraising campaign for a particular tree related.
I think that's a good thought.
Carol? One,
Yes.
Kathleen?
Two.
Anna?
I'd rather the city just pay for it, but I'll say one.
Henry?
1.
Tom?
1,
Alright. Create a spreadsheet for funding received going forward from each specific fund category.
It doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, that's right. I didn't know how to respond to that.
money first.
Yeah, let's take that off for now.
Remove. Research and apply to 2 grants a year.
Seems like a good thing.
And
So
who
that's like
does
that, Relief, that's Victor.
Mhm.
So Relief is, a group that's funded by DTE, I think it is. And they helped us plant 21 trees along the spillway.
And I mean to interrupt, but I just wanted to let you guys know this is tree board, right?
Yes.
We got a serious issue with our trees in this town. There's no leaves on
Good one.
Except for the,
Okay, keep it light.
Solve that. So are we just gonna keep that as one?
Yep.
Yeah, that's Victor's problem.
And donate a tree, let's keep this one, and we're done. Okay, everybody good to stay for another minute or so? Yes. Okay, this is a little off agenda, but, I'm gonna try and put together a calendar for tree board for the year, so things we need to remember to do in January, like all the stuff we did today. Capital improvement projects, I don't know if we'll ever have one, that's later in the year. Like what month we need to begin planning for Arbor Day, just so we have kind of an ongoing thing. And as part of that, I think here's what we did on parks, is to come up with some topics for the tree canopy column in the newspaper. And so, anybody have any ideas? So one's going in this month on the tree survey, and there'll be, like a QR code link to get to it, and Henry wrote it. That's really good. I had other ideas. Once we get this vegetation management program off the ground and hopefully secure some trees from council. And we can write about that, what that's about. It's just a big step forward in being proactive about tree maintenance instead of waiting for individual requests to come in. So,
Did we talk about identifying invasive species? The way of getting that
That'd be a good
information
one.
out to the public?
yep. Let's put that as a possible,
And including things like the oak disease is not here yet, is that right?
I don't know.
But
I don't think it's here
other
yet.
trees to avoid because of, they may not be invasive, but they may be
Disease prone.
disease
Yeah.
prone, yeah.
then I think whenever we figure out Arborfest, which we should talk about in February for sure, if you want to put that down, Rachel. So we were talking about doing it at, Upper Zorn Park across from the church. And do it like during, farmers markets, we can get more people there. And if we can start to think of a fun theme for it that will make people say, oh my gosh, I've got to go, it's gonna be so cool. Like last year we did birds, and I thought that was good. So just to try and be thinking of themes. So that could be Parks Corner article. Oh, and then I came across this somewhere. It was so interesting. And it's like a bunch of like obscure but insane facts about trees. Like one tree will, over its life, take 6 tons of carbon out of the air or something like that. So that can be a fun one. So is that enough for now, maybe? Okay, good. And then going forward, we'll have like a calendar to kind of keep us on track. And then Rachel, do you want to pull up? Okay, so every year we do a report to council. And I've done it so far, but I wonder if my vice chair this year would like to do part of it, and I'll do part of it.
Sure.
Okay, do you want to just run through it real quick, Rachel? Okay. So our purpose for meeting with council is to provide an update on where we are and what we've been doing. And we'd like to request $6,000 to purchase and install 10 trees for phase 1 of the vegetation management plan and phase 2 of the street tree plan. How's that sound to everybody?
Good.
We could ask for 20 trees, but maybe we just kind of keep it reasonable. How do you think council would react?
I think they're sympathetic.
Okay. And then we always start out the report with a quote, and this one is: the true meaning of life is to plant trees under which whose shade you shall not expect to see. So the vision of Tree Board is that trees are important and a part of the city's character and provide numerous benefits to the environment, our local economy, and our sense of well-being. The City and Tree Board is dedicated to managing the urban forest by promoting community stewardship and by presenting and enhancing this essential resource for future and current generations. And thus from that comes our two goals, our main 2 goals. Okay. Here's some things that we did in 2024. I like how that slide turned. So we got council approval and began working on a vegetation management plan for trees and public property. And again, this takes a proactive approach to things where DPW will clear views and things like that, rather than waiting until somebody requests it and then they have to wait 6 months for Ben Vealing to come look at things, and they have to pay for surveys and all sorts of stuff. So it just streamlined the process. And yeah. So let's see, then the community survey, and us wanting to know more about what the community wants regarding trees. That'll help guide our future work. Arbor Day was great. It was at Harborview. I thought it was pretty well attended. We planted trees, we had a speaker, we had games. The mayor cooked hot dogs last year, Tom, just FYI. You might be on tap for hot dogs, on tap for hot dogs.
I'm pretty easy most of the time.
Okay. And then we write our bi-monthly tree canopy column in the Harbor Light. Okay, what are our plans for this year and beyond? So last year, council approved 10 trees to kick off the street tree plan. So those will go in the spring. We'll complete the vegetation management plan and figure out how that will be funded, because it will take more work on the part of DPW. Complete the tree survey and report to the community. We'll have our Arbor Day Fest at Upper Zorn this year, and we're going to do it in the spring this year. Continue to keep the community updated with tree canopy, collaborate with parks and DDA to support tree needs related to their projects, and to continue to implement the street tree plan and get ongoing funding for that.
You got that? Or well, let me go on.
I think there should be one
Is there
more.
more? Okay,
Oh.
sorry.
And we always like to remind everybody of why trees are important, and you guys can just read through that. A multitude of reasons. Hey, Rachel, and thank you.
Yeah.
Comments, anything to add, delete?
There was one. I should have
Okay.
paid attention, back. We got things done. In the last line of number 1, rather than only reacting to individual requests.
Okay,
Otherwise, it could sound that like they don't, we don't want their requests.
yeah. Yes,
That just jumped on me.
no, that's good.
That's all.
Other thoughts?
Nice slide.
As a council person, Tom, is there anything else you would want to know?
Not this time, no.
Okay.
Okay.
Would you support $6,000?
Sure.
Okay,
Good start.
good start. Okay, then we're now quickly moving on to so it's 1:30. Do you guys want to talk about vegetation management high priority discussions, or are we kind of talked out? Because we could move this to next month.
I'd like to move it
Okay,
to next month.
that's okay with everybody?
Doesn't throw people off.
Yep, and so so Victor in the packet, had a list of what the high priority properties are, their parks and their, city property along the bluff, like the Shade Drain, and then the bluff viewing platform on the boardwalk. So maybe for the next meeting, if we can all try and visit those and come up just with a few ideas on, what should be our goals on all of those. And that would be phase 1 of our vegetation management. So some of it's gonna be, adding trees, so that's part of what that $6,000 ask council will be. All right, let's see, our next meeting is February 21st. We didn't get this into the pack in time. I do have dates for everything, but maybe, Rachel, would you be willing to send those out? Or
Yeah, I'll make a note
Victor
for
do it,
Victor,
yeah.
yeah. Send out annual meeting.
So it'll
date.
continue to be the 3rd Friday at noon.
Okay.
And thank you so much for coming, Pam. I think you should just come to all of our tree board meetings. Really, great idea.
They'll do a great job.
Are we comfortable ending the meeting?
Yes,
Okay.
let's adjourn at 1:30.
And it's a lot more fun than planning commission.
Yeah.